Hello, and welcome to Doomed, solo attempts through Arkham Horror, the card game. This is a new video series where Scott Humphrey, will attempt to take on scenarios, campaigns of Arkham Horror, the LCG, solo, true solo, probably just on standard. The reason it is called Doomed, of course, is because I, Scott Humphrey, am doomed. As a relatively new player to the game, there's a lot of intricacies to the game that I haven't quite mastered, and therefore, the chances of survival are slim. But you, viewer, are along for the ride, because this series is much more about lore and storytelling than it is about any mechanics or winning. So, if you're already familiar with Arkham Horror the card game, or you just want to get straight into the action, click here, right over this lovely man's face. Otherwise, stick with me as I do a little bit of an introduction. So, what is Arkham Horror the LCG? Fantasy Flight Games has released seven cycles of story, scenarios, cards, campaigns set in H.P. Lovecraft's mythos universe. So an LCG differs from a collectible card game, a CCG, in a couple of important ways. The most important way is that instead of getting booster packs and then having to collect cards that you want, you instead get all of the cards in the new pack as they come out. So everybody has access to the same card pool, which means, of course, that everybody has access to the same game, more or less. The reason I think that that's a really good thing is that it increases accessibility to the game and to the world, and especially as we get into it, a game like Arkham Horror, that's really important because it isn't competitive. And we'll get into what that means momentarily. The setting of the Arkham Horror LCG, as I mentioned, is the stories of H.P. Lovecraft, or inspired by the stories of H.P. Lovecraft. So it's 1920s America with a spooky supernatural twist. This relates to things like video games Layers of Fear, Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, and also to the film The Lighthouse, if any of these touchstones are more appropriate for you. Arkham Horror is a cooperative card game as well, which again, unlike most CCGs or LCGs card games, which are competitive, here we, the players, take on the mythos together by playing on the same team against the encounter deck. Now, I, of course, will be playing true solo, so this is slightly less applicable, but it's still going to be me versus them. Who are the them? Cultists, monsters, abominations, old ones. We're going to have to find out. There's also an important thing to note, which as we'll play through these scenarios, you'll come to understand. This is a campaign structure. What that means is that decisions that you make in one scenario may and will affect the following scenarios, as your choices do in life as well. So, if I am defeated in one scenario, it doesn't necessarily mean I've lost. It means I carry on limping into the next scenario. Maybe I've taken some physical or mental trauma. Perhaps by making a certain choice, an enemy will be closer to catching up with us in the following scenario, or further away. You also gain experience that you spend to upgrade your cards between scenarios, which I will not be taking us through that process because, again, the focus here in Doomed is on lore and storytelling. I will be playing, of course, on Tabletop Simulator with the now very sadly defunct Tabletop Simulator mod, the super complete Arkham Horror LCG. But thank you so much to its creators because I think it's an incredible work and I only wish it was still out there and able to be updated. Okay, what more do we need to say? We are going to be playing an investigator who, along with their allies, is taking on the mythos, the mystery around their home in Arkham. I will show the setup very, very briefly, but we're going to be looking more at a basic overview of the game, again, I want to talk us through the choices that our investigator is making rather than the mechanical, thought-based choices that we, the player, are making. This is Arkham Horror, the card game. This end of the table is the mythos end. There's a bunch of different things here, which I will explain again briefly, and if you've already skipped this section, you know what you're doing, so you won't hear this anyway. The agenda deck is the timer. As we accumulate doom throughout the scenario, the agenda deck advances. These are the agendas that the mythos are hoping to accomplish, the mysterious things that they are trying to do. The act deck is what we are hoping to advance. The act deck are the various goals that we as investigators need to accomplish. Usually, we do that by spending clues. Clues are, well, we know what clues are. Clues are things that we find in the scenario that help us figure out what to do next as investigators. Very thematic. Lovely. Also here you can see the encounter deck. That's the bad stuff deck, the bad things that are going to happen to us as we continue on through the round, through the game. There's setup, things, etc. And then there's this wonderful, beautiful, blood-splattered tentacle book. This is the Chaos Bag. What are all these? These are chaos tokens. Most of the time, when an investigator wants to do something, they need to test their skill versus the difficulty of the test with applicable modifiers, and then it is finally modified by fate. Fate is represented by the Chaos Bag. As you can see, most of these chaos tokens look pretty bad. I see a +1 down here. That's nice. I see some zeros. Okay. I see a bunch of minuses. That's not good. And then I see these bad boys, these special tablets. They don't look so great either. This one looks nice, though. We'll explain all of these as we go. Other things to mention here. This is our playing space, which again we'll be getting into as we continue, but each location is represented by a card. These little connections represent where we can move to. This is us, which we'll get to in a moment, and we'll have to see how the scenario progresses to see where we're getting to. And this is our player space, so you can see down here, we've got our character card, our damage, horror, number of clues, number of resources, money and or spiritual resources, our deck, which I've shuffled again, and our action trackers. We have 3 actions per round, and that's really about it. This is going to help us keep track of what part of the round it is, and here's our round sequence. So again, I won't go through this right away, but basically we start in the investigation phase in the first round. We each take a turn, then the enemies take their turn if there are any. Hopefully there won't be. Upkeep, draw a card, gain a resource, reset all your actions. Great. Then the mythos phase. This is the bad stuff phase. This is where you're not happy. Doom is placed. This advances the counter, moves us closer to the namesake of the show, Doomed. And then we draw a card from the encounter deck. This is what prevents the game. This and the Chaos Bag is what prevents the game from being a very simple mathematical equation. Well, I have the right cards in my hand. I know I can move here, and I can probably do this, so I win. The Mythos deck sometimes says, whoops, you don't have that special card in your hand anymore. Whoops, here's some big, beefy monster for you to fight, that sort of thing. We are going to be playing Return to the Night of the Zealot, which is the introductory core campaign. But the Return to version has several important differences, making it a bit better for players who are returning. We've got Return to The Gathering, Midnight Masks, and The Devourer below. That sounds nice. Maybe they just want to have a nice lunch. The Gathering is where we'll start, which we'll read all about and get into it. Who are we, though? Agnes Baker. Again, there's a lot of things here on the front of her card. It's more important for us to be discussing what's on the back, which we'll get to in a second. Agnes Baker is the waitress, but she's sorcerer traded. She's got very high willpower, 5. And after she takes horror, after she sees something truly horrifying, she's able to deal a damage to an enemy at her location. I like to envisage this as that negative energy enters her mind, she's able to subconsciously redirect it into some sort of eldritch damage. Let's look at the back of her card. Agnes Baker may be just an unassuming waitress in this life, but in a previous life, in a time and age undreamed of in the modern world, she had been a powerful witch. It began when she found a strange artifact, a key of some kind, in a dusty collection of family belongings in her attic. When she touched it, the memories came flooding back, along with one word: Hyperborea. The more she delved into the visions and memories of her former life, the stronger her powers grew, and the more frightened she became. Agnes is in her home. We'll find out what she's doing very shortly. But she is actually well on her way to harnessing some of these magical, mystical powers that she has. Like I said, some of it may be sort of more subconscious. But she's been working with a coven of witches here in town, specifically her good friend, Olive McBride, the woman who will try anything once, and if we ever see her, you'll know what I mean. Friday, September 18th, 1925, Arkham, Massachusetts. It's the end of a long and abnormally hot summer. Tell me about it. The first hints of autumn beckon, but a heavy heat persists, relentless. A silent, unspoken anger grips the town. Tempers are short, and in the last week alone there have been numerous reports of townspeople coming to heated, violent blows with one another over simple misunderstandings. And now, a call from James Hankerson. He claims to have found a dismembered body in his barn. Blaming the weather would be too easy. There's something wrong with this town, and not a whole lot this old soothsayer can do to stop the slide. My auguries indicate a small group of investigators will soon take note of these strange happenings and set forth to make things right. I'll be watching their progress, but I won't be holding my breath. That, of course, is not Agnes. That's some sort of soothsayer speaking through Agnes Baker. Part 1, The Gathering. We're not reading this part on the right. You and your partners have been investigating strange events taking place in your home city of Arkham, Massachusetts. Over the past few weeks, several townspeople have mysteriously gone missing. Recently, their corpses turned up in the woods, savaged and half-eaten. The police and newspapers have stated that wild animals are responsible, but you believe there's something else going on. Probably something to do with the magic, let's be real. You are gathered together at Agnes's home to discuss these bizarre events. Now, Agnes Baker, the waitress slash sorcerer slash witch, is the only investigator here. However, she has called upon her allies, a small coven of witches, as I mentioned, headed by one Olive McBride, and featuring other initiates into the coven. Now, hopefully we'll be able to see them, or hopefully we'll be able to use them as we get to getting here. What do we have to do? Agenda 1A. What's going on? It's late at night. You're holed up in your study researching the bloody disappearances that have been taking place in the region. A few hours into your research, you hear the sound of strange chanting coming from your parlor down the hall. At the same time, you hear dirt churning, as if something were digging beneath the floor. Right away, Agnes knows something's up. The chanting might be the Coven of Witches, but they're all here with her. So who's that? And that churning beneath the floor, she knows what that means. She knows that that's something to do with this savagery that's been impacting the town. Act 1A. Mysterious Gateway. As you leap to investigate, the door to your study vanishes before your eyes, leaving behind a strange gateway to another part of your house. There must be a reason why this is happening. Objective. Only investigators in the guest hall may spend the requisite number of clues as a group to advance. 3 per investigator. So we need 3 clues in order to continue on past the guest hall. The study says, you've been investigating the strange events occurring in Arkham for several months now. Nice job, Agnes. And working a full-time job? Okay. Your desk is covered in newspaper articles, police reports, and witness accounts. Well, I believe in you, Agnes Baker. I believe in you. I'm going to shuffle again, take our 5 resources, and we're going to draw our opening hand, which we will be able to mulligan if we need to. I really like most of this. Forbidden Knowledge would be good. Spells would be good, obviously, so I'm going to throw back 2 cards, and I'm going to take 2 more. Okay. This is our opening hand. Let's get to getting. What do I want to play? Agnes hears the chanting. She hears the churning. She notes that the study door has vanished, leaving only a portal to another part of her home, and she's like, ugh. She knows she's got Olive on her side, which is good news. So she's of course going to make sure that she's got Olive McBride ready. Olive McBride will try anything once. She's a witch ally. Fantastic. As a quick side note, the mechanical core of this deck, something I've never attempted to play with before, but I'm really excited, is the whole, draw multiple chaos tokens, choose the best ones kind of situation, which will play well with ritual candles and will also play well with the idea of choosing when to trigger things like shriveling, etc. Olive McBride is ready. She offers Agnes the ritual candles that she'll need to complete whatever ritual lies at the end of all of this. And before Agnes does anything else, she knows that she may need some of the forbidden knowledge that's come to her from studying with this coven. But that's her turn. 1, 2, 3 actions. Olive McBride, she's lit her ritual candles, she's got her forbidden knowledge, and she's ready to take on the mythos. Enemy phase, there are no enemies, so we jump straight to upkeep, where we ready all of our cards. Nothing's been happening, so we draw a card. It's the Other Guts. Again. I saw it in my opening hand, I saw it when I mulliganed, and I saw the second one now. Obviously, Agnes is feeling a lot gutsier than I am. Mythos. We go to 1 Doom of 3. We just shuffle the encounter cards for good measure. We draw our first encounter card. So, Agnes is ready. She's got Olive behind her. She's got her ritual candles in hand. She's got knowledge of forbidden powers in her mind. She doesn't have access to her spells yet because she's still relatively new to all of this. A swarm of rats. Oh. A horde of cruel rats skitters forth in an undulating wave of claws, teeth, and mottled fur. Swarm of rats is a creature. I mean, y'all know what rats are. They're not terribly strong, but they bite. Agnes is going to have to be careful. Or is she? So that's the end of the mythos phase. Agnes stands with the other witches as they watch this swarm of rats pour out of the portal. She doesn't really know what to make of this, but her immediate thought is to grab one of the papers on her desk. This is some of the forbidden knowledge. She yells an incantation, which, well, let's see what it says. Exhaust it and take a horror. Move a resource from forbidden knowledge to your pool as a resource, so you gain a resource. But it also says take a horror. Using this incantation horrifies her, but that horror, again, allows her to subconsciously direct some energy towards the swarm of rats, which kills it. And that was just instinctive. They appeared, she yelled the word, zapped herself, and blew them up. They just explode in a little ball of fur. But now it's time. I suppose I should actually reveal the room that we're in as well, eh? 2 actions to draw 3 cards. So this is, again, a quick mechanical off here. 2 to draw 3 is always it's pretty good in a deck that doesn't have a ton of draw, which is this one. And I don't have a lot of spells in hand. I do have guts, but nothing to spend the guts on. However, if I just sit here drawing cards, I'll have basically wasted a turn. We need to try to get these clues stat, but if we draw, we'll be able to potentially get weaknesses out and potentially see some of our spells, which would be, like, nice. So, Agnes is going to Yeah. She's going to attempt to draw 3 cards. So she's rummaging... 2 actions. She's rummaging through all of her papers, hoping to find something to help her. Sure does. Haunted. By shuffling through her papers, Agnes is assaulted by memories that she's not even sure are hers, from Hyperborea. Maybe? Things that she's done. Was it even her? Olive is attempting to steady her, attempting to get her back on track, but Agnes just isn't really sure what to do. I'm really happy I drew into Sixth Sense, so that's probably a good thing. The other aspect of what happened, shuffling through those papers, she's hit by this wave of psychic energy, which, as I mentioned, causes her to become haunted by these memories of a past, whether or not it's her past. However, it also unlocks in her this ability that she's not really sure she's ever even known she had. A sixth sense. That's her whole turn. She basically just... Here's how the turn went. The rats run in. She went, huh, buh, and exploded. And then she rummaged through some papers, and then she went... Mechanically, what's happening? I have a new asset out, a spell. But also, I am now haunted. -1 to each of your skills. However, 2 turns to set up. Not great. It's the enemy phase. Whoops. It's now the upkeep phase, so we ready everything. Her forbidden knowledge is ready to be used again. We draw a card, gain a resource. Amazing. Okay. It's the mythos phase again. Oh, we should ready all of our... We go to 2 doom of 3. What's going on? We're about to find out what's going on. And we draw our next encounter card. Frozen in Fear. Naturally, being both haunted and, having all of this psychic energy sort of willed into yourself at the same moment might cause someone to freeze up. It's understandable. The first time you perform one of the following actions, move, fight, or evade, it costs an additional action. At the end of your turn, test willpower 3. Okay, well, unfortunately, it's also not going to be a particularly forward momentum-y kind of turn. But Agnes knows what she has to do. She has to... Olive McBride is going to take her by the elbow, massage her temple, and help her work through these memories that she's feeling. She's going to spend 2 actions to discard Haunted. And then, last action, she's going to focus all of her psychic energies, and she's going to attempt to use her Sixth Sense. Investigate using willpower, and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff there. I don't need to Olive McBride or whatever. The Shroud of my study is 3, but there's definitely going to be a clue here if I can find it. I have 5 willpower. I'm investigating with Sixth Sense, and I'm going to commit a Guts to make myself a 7 versus 3. 0. Didn't even need it. Agnes is feeling gutsy using her powers for the first time. And in fact, she... Oh, jeez. I always forget. It's the investigation phase. It's already the end of it. A bunch of things happen upon successfully investigating. She gets the clue. She finds a clue here, which is great. And she draws a card because she's feeling gutsy. Oh, fearless. Nice. Okay. It's now the end of the turn. I'm testing willpower 3 again. Now I have 5. I could just burn my other guts right away. But I don't think I want to. I probably want to save that for a more difficult test. I could burn my fearless. I could try using Olive. If we think the average token in the chaos bag, does Olive want to try to help with this? I think she does. When you would reveal a chaos token, exhaust Olive McBride, reveal 3. 1, 2, 3. Well, that was a poor choice. Choose 2 to resolve and ignore the other. I'll choose the -1 and the -2. That's -3. That's 5 minus 3 is 2. I do not get to discard Frozen in Fear. I was hoping, of course, that my ritual candles would help me out here, but Olive, it says she'll try anything once, but Olive isn't exactly the... It's a new coven. You know what I mean? So Agnes remains frozen in fear, even despite her gutsy sixth sense use. It's now the upkeep phase, so Olive McBride is ready to try it again. Draw a card, uncage the soul. Wow, gain a resource. Okay, I'm feeling much better now. And we go to Mythos. What a horrible, slow start. We're doomed. That's the catchphrase of the channel. We move to 3 doom. 3 out of 3. There's a 3 threshold there, you can see. So we remove all of the doom in play, and we advance the agenda before we draw our encounter card. Your house continues to change before your very eyes. Yeah, you've just been standing there. The walls have decayed, and the ground in many rooms has turned to dirt. It's almost as if you've been transported somewhere else entirely, although every now and again you recognize elements of your former home. The lead investigator must decide. So, Agnes, either discard a card at random, or take 2 horror. Agnes is going to steady her mind and not be horrified by this turn of events, but in the meantime, that does mean she's going to lose something. There's a lot of great cards here, so I actually don't feel great about it, but discard a card at random. Absolutely classic. Shriveling is a great card, and it's a classic. That's the one I would lose. All right. In attempting to steady herself before her home, Agnes has lost the ability to use some of her magical powers. She's still frozen in fear, and now she's also something else. What do we got? Obscuring fog. Fog has rolled into the study. She knows she needs to get out of here. The attached location gets +2 shroud, but that doesn't actually matter because I got the clue off of it already. Hee hee. Agnes and the very small coven of witches. It's just Olive, really. I think there's someone else, but I'm not really sure. They need to get out and get moving. We need 3 clues to figure out what's going on. So she's gonna get out and figure out what's going on. The first time you perform one of the following actions, move, fight, or evade, it costs an additional action. So we're gonna move into the guest hall, which costs me 2 actions because, she's frozen in fear, but she's able to get out there. Somehow you've ended up in a completely different part of your house. Investigators in this location cannot take draw actions. You can't look for things in the guest hall because the guest hall is covered in roots. How did you end up here? My last action, we're going to continue to try to get where we need to go. There's the bedroom. A shadow dances across the floor beneath the bedroom door as you approach. Or the bathroom. As you approach, the weight of the putrid, unnatural air causes you to gag. Ayoy. Well, I don't really have a way of doing damage, so I need to not necessarily go where there might be an enemy. The shadow tells me there might be an enemy, so I'll instead head to the bathroom. The weight of putrid, unnatural air makes you gag. Okay, the guest bathroom looks as though it hasn't been cleaned in years, even though we know Agnes cleans her old family mansion home. Maybe she hasn't been to this room before. Hard to say. A viscous green liquid fills the bathtub in the far corner of the room, and mold has grown across the walls. Ew! But maybe she can find a clue here. If she weren't out of actions... It's the end of the round. Olive is ready to help us unfreeze ourselves in fear. I really want to pass this test, so I'm going to toss a fearless. Agnes, only by standing firm against the darkness can we live to see the light of another day. Agnes is already quite strong in her mind, despite the frozen in fear, despite the, forbidden knowledge or whatever. She's able to redirect the psychic energy into eldritch energy. She's fearless, and she's ready to prove it. So I'm going to take this test. I'm 3 up. I know I should use this Olive McBride, and I just don't trust it. But I mean, all of the special tokens are actually pretty good. All right, well, this will be an indication of whether Olive is actually helpful or not. Ready? We're going to reveal 3 instead of 2. Okay. +1, 0, and tablet. Tablet, I'm going to pull down here because I don't remember. A tablet is -2. I would get a +1 because of my candles, but I'll just take the better tokens. So we're well over the threshold. We get to discard Frozen in Fear. We are no longer frozen in fear. Thanks, Olive. And the Fearless heals one of our horror. We feel stronger even in this putrid bathroom. The enemy phase, there are no enemies. So it's now upkeep. We get to draw a card. It's the other Fearless. Well, I mean, that makes sense, right? We're feeling fearless, so you'd continue to feel so, I imagine. Into the Mythos phase. I didn't even read Act 2A, Agenda 2A. Wow. You can tell this is a new series because I'm not used to all of the little minutiae. Rise of the Ghouls. The floor beneath you is giving way. Right, because it's a moldy, destroyed bathroom. And you see a vast network of tunnels twisting into the darkness below. Shapes and silhouettes of strange creatures move swiftly through the tunnels, trying to find a way up. You probably don't want to be here when they do. We're at 1 of 7. And my encounter card is a chill from below. Sure, as those tunnels open up beneath her in the bathroom, she can see these figures skittering around down there. Olive is more knowledgeable than Agnes, but neither of them really know what to make of it. And coming up from those tunnels below is a chill. The ground is covered in ice and frost, and a deep chill courses through the air. Test will 3. For each point you fail by, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I have 5 will. I don't want to discard these cards, so I want to pass this test, which means I'm going to commit guts to it. Feeling gutsy. Stay back! I'll handle this. Stay back, young boy. I've got this. With my 2 guns. Or in this case, with my 6 cents and my candles. We're testing 7 against 3. Agnes is mentally prepared. She's standing firm against the chill. No problem. Nothing happens. The chill just blows right by her. And she gets to draw a card. It's the Shriveling. Now, it's now finally again, it's the investigation phase. Again, I have to keep moving. But Agnes, now seeing the creatures skittering beneath her, knows that there's something down there, and she knows she needs to be ready for it. So she's going to... The power seized her, made her shudder and spasm. Its energy united with hers, and then she opened her eyes. Look at that art. Wow. She's going to ask Olive to create the uncaging ritual, which uncages her soul, allowing her to play her Shriveling for free. She doesn't use any of her own resources. She uses resources from beyond the veil to put down this spell that will allow her to fight if she needs to. However, as we know, we do need to investigate and try to find the clues that we need. After you reveal a special token while investigating the bathroom, lose all remaining actions and end your turn. So we should try to investigate last action, I guess. So what else am I going to put down here? Agnes doesn't need it yet, but I think she's going to take out her flashlight nonetheless. She knows that, maybe the bedroom might be a bit dark, or maybe what lies beyond the veil in this home might be a little spookier. So she's going to pull out her flashlight, and then last action, she's going to invite Olive of course she is. She's going to invite Olive to do her thing. Come on, Olive, do your thing. I have 5 willpower against the 1 shroud. And we're going to use Olive to reveal 3 tokens. Choose 2 to resolve. No problem. Wow! Olive's ritual invades Agnes's mind, and the sixth sense everything just clicks, and for one beautiful, brilliant moment, she sees what she's meant to see in the mold that's overgrowing the bathroom and in the dark, skittering tunnels beneath the floor. Quick aside, this is the Elder Sign. Every investigator has their own Elder Sign effect. +1 for each horror on Agnes Baker. There's 0, but that's still just +0. So we succeed, and we get the clue. Agnes is still, unfortunately, moving a little slowly through this, but we seem to have everything out that we're going to need. We've got Olive, we've got our forbidden knowledge, we've got 2 spells, a flashlight, and some candles. The candles have yet to pull their weight, but I imagine they will. Always stay hydrated. It's very important when investigating the mythos. So we got that last clue. In the enemy phase, nothing happens because there are no enemies. They're still skittering around beneath her in the dark. We ready Olive. She's ready to use her power again. We draw a card and gain a resource. It's a premonition. We'll see how that works out later. We move back to the mythos phase. We go to 2 of 7 doom with the rise of the ghouls, and we grab an encounter card. It is another swarm of rats. So as this beautiful sixth sense reveals to Agnes the meaning of this things beneath her floor and the mold overgrowing her bathroom and where she has to go next, pouring up from the drain in the bathtub is another swarm of rats. Now, she already knows what she needs to do. She doesn't need to use her her newfound spell, which takes time. She can just yell that incantation word, which horrifies her, but allows her to take that energy, redirect it, and blast the swarm of rats, exploding them immediately, and gaining her a bit more spiritual resource. Not sure that's going to do anything for us, but the point is that it's a free action. Agnes, because of that incredible sensing that she was able to do, she knows what she knows where she has to go. There's something in the guest hall, but she has to head to the bedroom first. There's a tool there that she's going to need. She knows what needs to be done. She's going to move back into the guest hall and then immediately down the hall towards the bedroom. A shadow dances across the floors beneath the bedroom door as you approach. Interesting, didn't it already do that? After you fail a skill test while investigating the bedroom, discard a card at random. The bed sheets are tattered, and a strange symbol is drawn on the fabric. Blood pools at the foot of the closet door, and you can hear something chewing inside. Now, we know Agnes is both gutsy and fearless, and somehow the sixth sense revealed to her that she needed to come to the bedroom. There's something in here that she needs, and it's something to do with that symbol. And hopefully nothing to do with what's chewing behind the closet door. So, the 2 actions to move. And the last thing she gets to do is investigate. It's 2 shroud. Again, I may as well use Olive. I feel like it's better because, mechanically speaking, Olive allows you to at least avoid the tentacle token, the automatic fail. Agnes is going to activate her sixth sense. She's testing 5 on 2. Again, no special symbols, so these ritual candles have just been burning in her hand for warmth and just a nice glowy feeling, you know? But Olive McBride allows her to, once again, test well over the threshold limit and get the clue. Takes the clue off the location here, and that's the end of the investigator phase. As we move back into upkeep, Olive and the forbidden knowledge are both ready to be used again, and Agnes knows exactly where she needs to go next. We draw a card. It's lucky. That's a great card. I think she's feeling pretty lucky right about now, even though it's been a bit slow. We move back into the mythos phase. We go to 3 of 7 doom. The chewing sound in the bedroom is quite loud, as are the sounds of skittering and churning earth beneath her feet. Encounter card. Another chill from below. Agnes isn't too worried about this, to be honest. She's not even going to bother calling on Olive. She's just going to stand strong against the forces of darkness, and she's testing her 5 willpower against the 3 willpower. -2, perfect. So she shakes a little bit as it blows through her. This one was a bit scarier. Something is happening down there, and despite that incredible vision she had via her sixth sense, she still doesn't quite know what it is. But nothing happens. And it's back to Agnes. Her first action is going to be to move back into the guest hall where she knows she needs to go. She's going to spend 3 clues. This is not an action. Only investigators in the guest hall may spend the requisite number of clues as a group to advance. This is our objective. The act is moving the mysterious gateway. It doesn't take an action, though. The layout of your home is vastly different from its usual structure. Somehow, your guest hall seems to have looped around on itself, and you're stuck with no other way to enter the main hallway near the front of the house. But Agnes already saw this. She knows what to do. You notice that the wall between the guest bedroom and the bathroom is rotted and stained with what appears to be old blood. With no other way to proceed, you have no choice but to bust through the weak, rotted wall. Put into play the set-aside hole in the wall. Oh, oh, look at this. It's the hole in the wall. There it is. Whoops. Choose an investigator. Move. Reveal it. Test will 4. Okay, so Agnes... Olive kind of looks at her and goes, "What are you thinking, sister?" And she says, "Stand back." The thing I should mention about Agnes, because I think it's important, she is, as we know, a waitress, but also a sorcerer. And the mystical aspect of her nature is obviously a big part of her nature. This is who she is. She's discovering that now, and the events of the night of the Zealot will probably test her in ways that she hadn't thought possible. But there's another part of her as well. Mechanically, she's able to take survivor cards, level 0 to 2. And that part of Agnes is someone who has this drive to survive, someone who can take hits and still bounce back, someone who knows that sometimes you just need to run at the weak, rotted wall. She busts through into the hole in the wall. I need this like I need a hole in my wall. The walls of your house are splattered with mud, and your hardwood floor is gone, replaced with a dirt path. I should mention, of course, this is technically Agnes's house, but she must have inherited it. This is the place where she found the heirloom of Hyperborea in the attic. Although she's not sure where she's placed it now. It's weird, she should have it. After you reveal its location, put the set-aside attic, cellar, and parlor into play. There they are. I'll just make sure that they're connected. So, from here, you can head into the attic, into the cellar, or into the parlor. The parlor, however, says it's blocked by a darkly glowing, unfathomable... Welcome back to Doomed, where I am doomed to try to repeat this word until the end of time. Unfathomable. Nope. You cannot move into the parlor. You're unsure what would happen if you tried to cross the threshold of the strange barrier, but based on its extreme heat, you sure as hell don't want to try. Agnes may be a mystic, but she's not an idiot. There's got to be a way in. Oh, I have to test Will 4, and then we'll read the next act. So, I'm testing Willpower 4. If I fail, I'm going to have to discard cards from my hand. Not the worst. I might honestly just chuck in on this, and then use Olive. Running through the weak, rotted wall, Agnes had to ditch some old other ritual candles, which might have come in handy later, but they're giving her a bit more strength in her mind. We're drawing 3 tokens, and I'm at 6 will versus the 4. I'll take the +1, and I'll take the skull. The skull is the number of ghouls at your location, which is 0. But I also get +1 because of my ritual candles. Yes. Olive said these would come in handy. So in fact, again, I'm testing well over the limit, so nothing happens. Agnes is an unstoppable machine. What's going to happen to her later is maybe a different question. A glowing barrier blocks the path to your parlor. As you move towards it, intense heat forces you to back away. Picking up a handful of dirt, you toss it at the barrier and watch in horror as the dirt incinerates. Ew. Perhaps there's something in the cellar or the attic that can help. When the round ends, investigators in the hallway may, as a group, spend the requisite number of clues to advance. So we need 3 more clues. Agnes needs... She doesn't have a vision of how to proceed from here. But she knows she can head up, or she knows she can head down. And there's got to be something in one of those places that can help her. Or, at least, maybe Olive and her sixth sense can help her figure out what she needs to do. At the end of the round, you have to spend the clues, so that's an important detail as well. I see that +1 a lot. Agnes is going to head down to the cellar. Now, the stairs leading down to your cellar are slick, and they glisten with a thin layer of ice. Whoa. After you enter the cellar, take a damage. Okay. Your cellar seems to have been replaced with an underground network of icy tunnels and caverns. The cold chills you to the core. Victory 1. It's got 2 clues on it as well, so we have to take a damage because she slips down the stairs and kind of twists her ankle a little bit, but she's okay. She's fine. She's a survivor. Now, I feel like Agnes does have a way of clearing clues, but she hasn't seen it yet. It's kind of the problem. I don't think I want to just stand here and get clues. But I do definitely want to try to clear the clues off this location. Do I want to just try for it? Yeah, I mean, nothing's going to happen. The thing about Agnes's sixth sense is if she draws the right tokens, she can kind of use it to know what's happening in the room next to her. Mechanically speaking, what it says here, I'll just read it. If a special token is revealed, you may choose a revealed location connected to yours. You're now investigating as if you're at that location instead of yours. You may use either shroud value. In other words, she could be standing in the hallway using her sixth sense, pick up a clue here in the cellar if she draws the right token. Problem is, after you enter the cellar, take a damage. So if I leave and I come back, I have to take another damage as I slip down the stairs again. So now that we're down here, I think we should at least try to get a clue off this location. Or draw and see if we can find something that's a bit more useful. No, we should try to find a clue off this location. There's no downside. Agnes foresees that this cellar, slick with ice, closer to the skittering creatures, whatever they are. Rats? Wolves? She knows it's going to be difficult to find what they need down here. It's dark. It's scary. I have a flashlight. Forgot. The flashlight doesn't really help me because without drawing multiple tokens, there's no way I'm going to be able to investigate it properly. Could be lucky, I guess. Yeah, that might actually be useful. However, I already did this, so I'm going to do it. She's overcome with a premonition. The premonition is what will happen to her next, right? And again, mechanically speaking, she knows what she's going to draw on her next attempt, a 0. So if she can match the shroud, she can grab a clue. So in fact, I will use my sixth sense. Agnes focuses really hard. She's able to use her sixth sense. She knows what she's going to find when she does, and that gives her the clue from the location. So we, instead of revealing a new chaos token, we use the one that's on premonition because we have to, which is a 0. Sixth sense grabs us a clue off of the location. Premonition is discarded. The chaos token is discarded. Okay. And even +1 with the ritual candles. Not bad. Not bad. Agnes. Again, there's no enemies on the board, which, if I'm being honest with you, Agnes is a bit nervous. There's been so much movement around her, but all she's seen so far is a couple of waves of rats. Those things in the dirt beneath her, she doesn't know what they are, but she doesn't think they're just rats. Something is coming, and it's probably coming pretty soon. During the upkeep, she... Damn it. This is exactly what I wanted before. It allows you to get 2 clues off a location. What are you going to do? Perhaps I will use it again later. Or perhaps I won't. Okay. It's now back to the mythos phase. We go to 4 out of 7. Things are happening. Down there in the deepest, darkest cellar, Agnes is starting to uncover the secrets, which she's not quite sure what exactly is going to help her get through the barrier into her parlor, but she knows that she can use the door at the front of the parlor to get out of the house because something horrible is happening. Ancient evils. Dark forces stir against you. Hey, I said they would. If you do not act quickly, a sinister plot will be fulfilled. Place a doom on the agenda. Straight up. That mysterious chanting she heard down the hall way back when she was in her study, she hasn't seen head nor tail of any, well, humans that may have been causing that chanting, but she has seen a circle inscribed on her sheets. She has seen some sort of horrible growth in her bathroom. She's seen blood and mud spattered on the walls of her home, and now she's seen something even worse. An omen that ancient evils are about to be unleashed upon the world. It's a very simple encounter card. It loses you a turn. Horrible. Just the worst. But, and with no way to defend against the mythos, I guess that's just where we're at. On the plus side, Agnes still knows there's creatures out there, but none of them are doing anything to her, so she can try to get the clue off this location and get the heck out of here. So let's remind ourselves, this is a 4-shroud location. Agnes needs to find what's in here. I think we're going to attempt to use a flashlight charge. So she's going to open up her flashlight. She's going to turn on her flashlight. We're investigating at a -2 shroud. So, oops, sorry, it's now only 2 shroud with 2 book. I'll keep the read the signs in hand because I have a feeling I'll be able to do something with this. Olive. Agnes is going to call upon Olive to increase the brightness of her flashlight, which, you know, may go awry. Let's see how it goes, shall we? Fantastic. Olive, you're amazing. A 0 and a skull. There's also a 0, but if we reveal one, we get a +1 to the skill value. So, in fact, actually, we're investigating at a 3 versus the new shroud of 2. The light from the flashlight flickers a bit, we think it might go out, but then all of a sudden it brightens and reveals something glinting in the ice just ahead of them. They grab it, and they get the heck out of there. So that's 2 clues. The other clue off the location, this is also worth a victory point, as Agnes knows she can confront the icy, scary darkness. Second action will be to get the hell out of there, and then third action will be to move up into her attic, hoping to find something else of use. The smell of rotten meat assaults your nostrils as you approach the attic stairs. Well, that's not good. After you reveal the attic, put the set aside far above your house location into play. Okay. Far above your house, so I'm going to make note that it's connected and it's up here. The bloody carcass of some sort of beast swings from a meat hook chained to the ceiling. Yikes. Perhaps this is the chanting that we heard earlier. They were chanting around the blood of this beast carcass. I don't know. Blood drains slowly from the carcass, dripping into a small barrel. To your surprise, a wooden ladder at the far end of the attic ascends through your roof to an even higher area. However, there is a clue here. This is good news. If we can grab it, we don't even have to visit far above your house. Huh. You struggle to believe this is even possible, considering the attic is the highest point in your home, or at least was. Now, this is an important point here. If Agnes is able to get what she needs from the attic, she can go back down into the hallway and just get out of her house, or at least attempt to get out of her house. Instead, is she going to be curious enough to know what is far above her house, or is she going to be quick enough to try to escape? That was the end of her turn. So it's now the upkeep phase. Again, Olive is ready. Ethereal form. As Agnes has continued to use her powers, she's gained this ability to think, what if I was to try this? What if I was to try that? She's gained these powers that she hasn't attempted to use yet, but she knows she might be able to if she really needed to do something with them. I'm not quite sure what they do yet, but we're going to find out. Great. Now it's the mythos phase once more. We are at 6 out of 7. Doom. We're almost there. It's almost the rise of the ghouls. And we're going to shuffle the encounter deck, I think. Just give it a little shuffle. Agnes draws her next encounter card in the attic, watching the blood drip from the carcass down into that wooden barrel. A flesh eater. A monstrous creature feeds from the rotting carcass in the attic. Wow, how didn't we see that when we walked in? Suddenly, Olive screams and points towards the corner. There, a human? No, humanoid. It's a monster, definitely. A beast whips its head around. It's been feeding on the carcass that's in the corner. Not the one that's hanging from the ceiling, obviously. We would have seen it right away. The flesh eater. 4 fight, 4 health. 1 evade, spawns in the attic. Worth victory 1. But it's immediately here with us, and we have to deal with it. Now, what Agnes wants to do is grab what she needs from here in the attic, and she knows what she needs, and get out. But if she tries to grab something, this flesh eater might eat her flesh. So, what is she going to do? This is a great question. Agnes could attempt to kill this thing, but she has a feeling, well, she just needs to get out of the house. She is, a witch, but she's also she's a survivor. She knows what she needs to do in order to survive. And trying to go toe-to-toe with this beast, while she thinks she'll be able to use her abilities to pull it off, it's maybe not the best idea right now. So we'll have to see. The very first thing she's going to attempt to do is give this creature the runaround. It seems to be pretty slow-moving, and based on where its ears and eyes are, she has a feeling it's not very good at sensing them. She's going to attempt to evade it and get away from it. A skull. Okay, 3 evade, -1 because there's a ghoul, but +1 because of the candles. So she's not throwing the candle necessarily, but she is using it as a distraction, lighting a small fire in the corner, which causes the flesh eater to race towards it. It has been evaded, which means it is no longer able to attack her this round, which is great. Her second action will be to use the flashlight to try to illuminate the area, but subtly, so as not to draw the attention of the flesh eater, which will hopefully get her what she needs. The flashlight lowers the shroud of the location from 3 to 1. She has 2 investigate, and she's going to use Olive McBride. Ooh. See, good thing we used Olive, huh? Olive! Olive sees a future in which if Agnes had shone the flashlight directly at the bucket, it would have glinted off and re-alerted the flesh eater. So she directs Agnes to be careful, and together they sneak towards the bucket. And they definitely grab it, right? 2 investigate versus a shroud of 1, -1, but +1, because I have a horror. Absolutely. Grab the clue off the location. Our third action is going to be to move down out of the attic, back into the hallway. In the enemy phase, nothing happens because the flesh eater was distracted. But then, during upkeep, it will realize that its prey has disappeared. Fresh meat, it thinks to itself. Perhaps. We're not really sure. Things ready. Agnes still hasn't seen something very important. Okay, a premonition, that's good. Phew. This is a pretty good investigate phase, I gotta say. And we're back to the mythos phase. Oh no, we're not quite at the mythos phase, are we? Oh, so much is going to go down all at once. So Agnes managed to grab everything she needed. She had used her sixth sense to sort of determine what it was that she wanted to try to find. And while she did come across a beast, she's hoping that she might be able to defeat the beast. But first, it's more important that she at least secure a way out. When the round ends, investigators in the hallway may as a group spend the requisite number of clues to advance. So we'll spend the 3. And we're advancing the act. We're doing it. Act 2B, breaking the barrier. Using the barrel from the attic, you carry ice and snow from the cellar and hurl it at the barrier. The barrier sparks and shudders as it consumes the ice, then hisses and fades out of existence. The barrier blocking passage into the parlor has vanished. Reveal the parlor. Hup. Oh, well, we'll see what's going on in there in a moment, I suppose. Put the set-aside Lita Chandler into play in the parlor. Spawn the set-aside Ghoul Priest in the hallway. What the heck? Who's Lita? What's a Ghoul Priest? I don't know what any of these things are. Act 3A. What have you done? A woman with a torch stands in your parlor, a glimmer of hatred in your eyes. What have you done to my barrier? She screams, furious. Before you can answer, a ghastly wail sounds behind you, and a creature wearing robes and a deer skull mask tears through the wall, advancing toward you. If the Ghoul Priest is defeated, advance. Olive and Agnes have no idea what to make of the beast that's coming towards them. Is it human? Was it once a human? Is it some sort of abomination? Let's have a look at what's happening here. Let's have a look at everything, and then we'll continue on to the mythos phase where we get to draw something else and advance the agenda. Oh, it's so horrible. The Ghoul Priest is a 4-fight, 5 health, 4 evade, humanoid monster ghoul and elite. It preys on the person with the highest combat. Now, normally Agnes doesn't have a lot of fighting ability, but it can sense her mental prowess, and it's hunting her down instead. A figure in red robes wearing a bone mask. It gibbers and snarls before leaping to attack. It hits hard, and it'll hit your psyche as well. Hunter, retaliate. I think we can defeat it, though. Agnes needs to stand firm. When you control Lita Chandler, she gains, +1 attack for people at your location. When an investigator at your location attacks a monster, it deals +1 damage. Lita Chandler seems furious at her for destroying the barrier. She's not quite sure if Lita will actually, in fact, help her out. So we'll have to see. However, before we see anything else, the Ghoul Priest has burst through the wall. She and Olive and the priest are now all in this tussle together in the hallway. What's going to happen? However, it's now the mythos phase, and we go to 7 out of 7 dooms, so we advance the agenda. The tunnels below. A feral beast, roughly humanoid with a canine cast and hooves for feet, tears through the ground in front of you. Below the floor, you can see vast tunnels beneath your house. Fiendish howling echoes from deep within the underground caverns. Obviously, the Ghoul Priest has somehow used his powers, his screeching, gibbering, snarling, to summon more monsters from beneath the floor. Shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck. Discard cards from the top until a ghoul enemy is discarded, and we draw it. Everything goes back in. Lost both the engine evils. That feels good. Okay. It's a ghoul from the depths, and it spawns in the bathroom. Well, it's... in a lot of ways, Agnes kind of just wants to sit here in the hallway and just zap everything that comes her way with as much psychic energy as she can. Agenda 3A. They're getting out. You hear a crazed howl outside, and suddenly all creatures turn their attention to that sound. They rush to escape the house, breaking down doors and clawing at everything in their way. At the end of the enemy phase, unengaged ghouls move towards the parlor. At the end of the round, we place doom. So all of the ghouls in the house are rushing up through tunnels, through hallways, downstairs, and they're trying to get out through the parlor. Lita is blocking their way, but in front of Lita is Agnes and Olive. Have to be very careful here. And of course, now we also get to draw an encounter card. It's a swarm of rats. And all of the skittering rats they're not really part of the ghoul crew, but all of the shrieking has made them think, like, we better seek out another quieter house. They haven't even really proven that scary, frankly, but they've also started swarming around their feet. Okay. We have to defeat the ghoul priest. Ideally, I, the player, would like to get some experience from the other ghouls as well. If I can take some horror, I'll be able to defeat this swarm of rats. Agnes could try to use her power to slip away from all of these enemies and rush in to the parlor and try to see if she can help Lita Chandler. Because Lita seems to have at least some sort of beat on what these creatures are. She has a feeling she won't be able to talk to the Zealot, though, so there's no real point in doing that, frankly. The first thing we're going to do, of course, is have another premonition. As the ghoul priest bursts through the wall, as she hears howling coming from inside the house and outside the house behind her, drawing the creatures towards her, as the rats begin to pour up through the floor and around her feet, Agnes is caught by another premonition. You'd think it was something she was doing deliberately, but perhaps she just hasn't quite learned how to harness her powers yet. Agnes draws the power deep from within herself, points, just want to show the art on this, wow, points at the ghoul priest and just says, "Be no more." Energy pours from her arm towards the ghoul priest. She's fighting at a 5 - 1 + 1, 5e4. It's going to damage it. It's not killed, that's for sure. But also, the horror from watching this energy pour out of her and shrivel and wither away the ghoul priest's arms is going to horrify Agnes. But again, that is able to be redirected into a psychic blast, which disperses the rats. Boom. Pretty good first action, if you ask me. She's going to attempt to use that newfound power again, because you see, Agnes is fearless. She's testing to 6, and I think it's Olive time here. Olive is now going to help her by drawing additional power from within herself. Incredible. So, again, by using Olive as sort of a conduit for this shriveling energy, it's able to pour out of Agnes and again into the ghoul priest. I get to heal horror and put 2 more damage. Oops. 2 more damage on the ghoul priest. It's looking a little scary for the ghoul priest, for being honest. It's not looking terribly happy. Now, Agnes could attempt to finish it off by just leaping into its arms. Well, not, romantically. By leaping into its arms and attempting to, knock its mask off or something. It seems to have shriveled down quite a bit. Her blasts of energy have seemed to weaken it considerably. The question is, do we want to attempt to do something with this other creature? And I think the answer is no. Would Agnes, standing in her parlor, really want to just wait and potentially get mobbed by more ghouls? No, she'd want to try to get out of her house. Yeah, she's going to attempt to focus one more blast of energy at the ghoul priest. She's going to throw in both of the thoughts that she had earlier about powers she might have and try to channel those into this attempt. So, again, she's testing this 7 versus 4. Amazing. The ghoul priest cries out with a scream. As I put it in the victory display, cries out with a scream as the energy from Agnes's mind rockets into its body. She watches it wither away. She watches its limbs fall off in dust. She watches the mask vanish as its face is long and drawn, frozen in a mask of pain, as it simply disappears. If the ghoul priest is defeated, advance. When the robed creature falls, the fiendish swarm burrows back into the ground, and the chaos of the house quiets. Oh, well, that's nice. Without the ghoul priest, the creatures from beneath the home don't want to try to get out anymore. They're frightened, perhaps, of the power that this witch might have. The stranger in your parlor doesn't seem relieved. You broke my seal that was set to trap the ghouls within. She raises her torch. Now we must take more direct measures and burn this hell pit to the ground. It was never much of a home. Burn it down. Or the hell pit is my home. No way are we burning it. Knowing that we were in this scenario, I have to tell you, I didn't think through what Agnes would want to do if she was able to get out of the house, but of course realizing these creatures are within it. Something's happened to her ancestor's home that she can't really get away from. She knows she has everything she needs from the house, but it's been twisted well beyond what she thought was normal. It's been twisted into something truly horrible. It was never much of a home. Burn it down. Resolution 1. You nod, and I'm down at resolution 1 on the bottom right. You nod and allow the red-haired woman to set the walls and floor of your house ablaze. The fire spreads quickly, and you run out the front door to avoid being caught in the inferno. From the sidewalk, you watch as everything you own is consumed by the flames. Come with me, the woman says. You must be told of the threat that lurks below. Alone, we are surely doomed. But together, we can stop it. Which sounds like a nice analogy for us, actually, viewer. You and me. Alone, I was doomed. But with you, we did it. In your campaign log, record that your house has burned to the ground. The lead investigator earns the Leech Chandler card and may include it in their deck. It does not count towards their size. So we can take her along and potentially call on her services. She offers additional combat, not particularly useful, but she also offers an ability where you can do damage to monsters. So I may, in fact, include her for that reason. The lead investigator suffers a mental trauma from watching his or her home become a smoldering ruin. Well, that's not good. Each investigator earns experience equal to the victory X value of the card in the victory display, including locations, and 2 bonus experience as they gain insight into the hidden world of the mythos. 2 for defeating the ghoul priest, 1 for clearing out that basement with the 6th sense and the flashlight and olive, 2 for gaining insight into the hidden world of the mythos. No more from other creatures. But I would say, all told, not bad, Agnes Baker. Not bad at all. This is our good friend Agnes Baker here. Mechanically, I gotta say that we did pretty well in terms of drawing what we needed to draw. I'm sure there were a couple of misplays, and I'm sure there were a couple of less than efficient plays, but we did well. We probably could have stayed on and defeated the Flesh Eater as well, but definitely better to try to finish the scenario if you can. Agnes uncovered powers that she didn't know she had. She was able to call upon her small coven of witches to help her defeat the creatures coming at her. She was able to blast them with energy, use her mind to sort of uncover the secrets hidden in her own home. You heard what I said. In her own home. She was able to get out. She chose to burn her home down, and that might seem a bit strange, but I think she understands the danger that these creatures pose, and she's not averse to the idea of just destroying them if she needs to. Well, that about does it for our first episode of Doomed. Thank you all so much for joining me. It's been a wild ride, and I cannot wait to try another one. We'll be returning soon to return to the Midnight Masks. What could that be, I wonder? We'll see you all again very soon here on Doomed.